bless you one and all, and welcome back to the Bishop's Corner. And I'll be your host for tonight. My name is Bishop Dr. Herbert N. Scott, the Chief Prelate of the Liberty Hall Cathedral of Praise right here in the heart of Brooklyn. And certainly we have a very, very interesting program for you tonight. A very, very interesting program indeed. And I am certainly looking forward to it. We are certainly thankful for the panel that we do have tonight. We are blessed with a lovely young man by the name of Andrew Wolliston. Andrew Wolliston. We thank God for him. Certainly it's a pleasure, young man, to have you on the Bishop's Corner. And of course, we want to thank God for a young man that we always respect. We honor him. He does a tremendous job whenever he comes on. That is none other than Oscar Capel. Oscar, it's always great to see you, young man. And certainly
it's
we want
great
to thank
to be here.
God for the man of God himself, the Apostle Lucien Rojas. Can we make him feel welcome? Certainly, man of God, it is indeed a pleasure to have you on the Bishop's Corner. And of course, we have to welcome the visionary for the Bishop's Corner, the man himself, the real Dr. Phil. Can we put our hands together for him as he will be joining us tonight in this our program? And certainly we have a great program that is outlined for one and all. Our subject matter tonight is this: men and marriage. Men and marriage. And certainly it's very, very befitting, because when you look at the panel, including the host, we are all men. We don't even have one lady tonight on the panel. Therefore, man to man, we can talk. Certainly we can. And the first question for our consideration tonight is this, or better still, let me just read all the questions. Question number one: what do men look for in a relationship or marriage? Secondly, do men need the same thing in the early part of a relationship as they do in marriage itself? Thirdly, what is the building structure of the Christian family, and why is that important? The fourth and last question is this: can Christian couples be unequally yoked? Well, certainly we have the panel tonight that can answer all of these questions. First question for our consideration is: what do men look for in a relationship or a marriage? And I want to put that to the apostle, because I know that he's been married for many, many years. He has children and grandchildren. So if anyone should know the answer, I'm sure that the apostle does have the answer. Man of God, how say you?
Yes, good night, pleasant good night to each and everyone. And it's an honor and a joy for me to be on tonight, this Bishop Corner. I'm just loving it. And we want to thank God for the host, Bishop Scott, who does a tremendous job, and the producer in Dr. Phil. Couple weeks ago, we were up at the Bishop's Corner celebration, and I really enjoyed myself tremendously. We had a wonderful time together. So I thank God for the Bishop's Corner. Considering the question tonight, what do men look for in a relationship? From a woman more so, you know, Paul the Apostle said, when I was a child, I spoke like a child. When I became a man, I put away the childish things. I think when we are younger, we're looking for the girl with the nice shape and the pretty looks. But as we get older in life, we more so looking for substance. Someone that is virtuous, according to Proverbs 10:31. Someone who will stand with us in terms of loyalty and trust. Someone who will build us. In the beginning, when God made Adam, he put him into a deep sleep and took a rib from his side and made for him an helpmate, and she will help us meet our needs. And so there ought to be a mutual love between a man and a woman, but what do I look for? Not just a good cook, we look at qualities. That's why it's so important, Bishop, that we date and we court before we get married, because we get to know the person. You can't meet somebody today and marry them tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. As a matter of fact, sometimes we with our wives for years, and women are strange creatures. They still surprise us sometimes. So there's an old song, an oldie that says, "Son, take time to know her. It's not an overnight thing." So that's old school there now. Come on, you know. But yeah, what do we look for? We look for a woman of prayer, a woman of virtue, and that's the spiritual side. But I want to see, for me, Bishop Scott, I like a good sense of humor. I did a message on the power of laughter. I like a good laugh. Nothing wrong with clean fun. You know what I mean? I don't want a woman that is fanatical. She's praying 24/7 and she don't have no time for me. I like a balanced life. You know what I mean? So I'm looking for a woman that can make me laugh. So she's smart, she articulate. We can certainly enjoy each other. Sorry, my thing got cut off. Yeah, that we can enjoy one another, and looking for substance, looking for a woman that will help build. We of course building each other, but women that when you turn around, you say, "Baby, we ain't got nothing." She say, "Look, I got something saved." You know, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Not just spending and everything, trying to keep up with the Joneses. You want a woman who will build you, who will be there for you when the whole world turn against you. You could come home to your palace and find to your crib, or whatever the young people would say, and find somebody who is there to support you and to encourage you. So these are some of the qualities I look for. A woman that is caring, a woman that has a good sense of humor, a woman that knows God, of course, a woman that is praying. There's so many attributes. There's so many things that we could look for in a woman, but not just the shape, but you have to look at the personality also. The substance, the demeanor. I quote the scripture, and please don't misunderstand me. It's in the Bible. It's better to live in the corner of a house top than to live in a mansion with a brawling woman. You don't want to come home every day and to a nagging woman. I mean, I'm going to say it plain and honest. You want someone who is easygoing. You can have a nice conversation. As a matter of fact, when you finish work, you want to run. You want to run home, because home is peaceful and pleasant. It's warm. It's cordial. It's fun. These are the kind of things. So I say marriage is beautiful if you get the right person. I'm not saying the perfect person. I say you get the right person that you can make things work. There will be challenges, of course, like everything else, but you want somebody who will be there for you through thick and thin.
Yeah. Okay, well said indeed. Okay, at this time we'll be asking Oscar to weigh on in. The question is, what do men look for in a relationship or marriage? Oscar.
Well, Dr. Phil asked me to come on because I am married 36 years. As my wife says, 10 long, happy years. So that's something right there. When I was younger, I was looking for a woman that wouldn't run away from me. So that took a while. This one finally stuck around. So, you look for someone that complements you. You don't want someone that's exactly the way you are, because that we're going to talk about yoke later. But if you're both exactly the same, it won't work. There has to be a difference so you can have conversation. So when you're young, as Apostle Rojas says, you're looking for a certain type of woman. But somebody who was much older than me, I said, I'm going to get married. What should I look for? And they said, find a friend, marry your friend. And that has worked out for me.
So, Oscar, let me ask you a question. What would you say are some of the things that all men need in a relationship? All men need in a relationship.
I think the word I'm looking at is support, because we tend to go off in all sorts of different directions. At least I do. So it's like, I want to do this now. And if you don't get that support, there's an old Kenny Rogers song that he wrote that says, she believes in me. And the song is actually about his second wife, because his first wife didn't believe he would ever be famous or ever make it, and she left him. And this one married him when he had nothing, but she believed in him, and that helped him get to where he got. So an important thing is that support that you get from a partner. It's a marriage, it's a partnership. So you have to work together. It's not, you're not a boss and a subordinate. It's you're working together. You're both rowing in the same direction.
Oscar, what do you think then about respect? Do you think that us men really need or demand respect in a relationship?
You can't demand respect. You have to earn it. So it's got to be, it's earned. You can't, like, we got married and we're going to do things my way, blah, blah, that you're already in a situation where you're not going to be happy. As we said earlier, happy wife, happy life, happy wife, happy life. So if you're going to come in, butting heads, you're going to be in for a very short and rocky marriage.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you one more question before we go on, Oscar. Do you think that men desire praise and approval from a woman?
From everybody, not just the woman. It's like why are we on Facebook looking for likes? I mean, everybody's looking for that, affirmation that they're worth something. And if you don't have that at home, that you got a big problem, because that's your number one place that you spend your time. So you're looking for praise, but again, you got to earn it.
One more question. What was it that attracted you to your wife? You've been married now for 30 odd years. Must have been something outstanding.
Funny thing is, she was going out with a friend of mine, and so I kidnapped her in the middle of the night. This is a true story. So I didn't think he deserved her. So I showed up at a party and I said, "Come on, let's go," because we were supposed to go canoeing the next day. So I just kidnapped her in the middle of the night. So again, anyone that could understand my crazy sense of humor was someone I could keep.
I want to ask you this question. Okay. Oscar, how important to you is emotional intimacy? How important to you is that?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not a very emotional person, except if I'm watching like a movie, it'll make me cry like crazy. But in a normal situation, I'm very, very stoic. I'm not that emotional. And luckily, my wife is emotional, but not super emotional. So it's a good balance. We don't have a crazy screaming, running around life in the house. It's like nice and low key, which is good.
Okay, thank you much, Oscar. I'll be getting back to you shortly. Okay, this time let's go over to Andrew with the same first question. Andrew, the question is this: what do men look for in a relationship or a marriage? Unmute.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I believe that, I can speak for myself. What do men look for in marriage? Men look for, obviously, compatibility. You want to be able to, when you talk about emotional intelligence and communication, for me, my love language would be communication. If I can't have a conversation with you, it really doesn't go any more further than that. Obviously, look-wise, you want her to, be beautiful, because especially if you're going to understand the finite long-term relationship, you're going to want to make sure it's someone that you are going to be attracted to for the duration of your lifespan. But peace, you don't really want a woman that is boisterous or overbearing or empowering. There are different types of ministry women, but you want one that is grounded in God, but that is not going to overpower you as well. She's going to bring balance to you. She should be able to check you when you're wrong, but not in a way that either belittles you or takes away from your manhood. You should have mutual respect for what you believe in and what she believes in. But a good woman knows how to manage you, and sometimes your ego and your sometimes male drive, because, we're always, conquerors, and we like to, sometimes we can be a little demonstrative, but if she's water to your fire, that's a good woman, someone that can bring balance to you. So I look for conversation first. If I can't speak to you and hold a conversation, and it has to be everything, it cannot be one dimensional. Like you said earlier, you can't be, praying 24/7, but we can't talk about current events. I would like you to know what's going on politically or financially. Like, I want to learn from you too. I don't want to just be the one that always has something to offer. I have no problem learning from a wife or a woman. So compatibility, communication, emotional stability, and that means emotional stability means that she knows who she is. She's not high or low. She knows how to manage her emotions. She's grounded in the word, so that when she's going through something, and I might not necessarily be able to help, she has a way to go into the word of God to bring the balance, and then come to me in a different light. When you're unsaved, sometimes you date women who you don't even realize what's out there, so emotional stability has to be a characteristic that she has. So, but I would say number one, communication. She has to be a communicator, and effective communication, not just talking and not understanding, communicating to understand, not just for me to listen or to get your point across.
Okay, thank you, young man. Let me ask you a question. As a young, intelligent guy, okay, how important is space for you? Because sometimes as a man, you may want your own space without she being there. How important is that for you?
Space is super important for me. Like, space is like breathing water, but in a relationship, you understand that sometimes women don't like space. So you have to have this balance. For me, like, if I was to come home from work, I need a good hour to just decompress. So I might, if I was in a hypothetical situation, I would come home, I'd acknowledge her, make her know, hey, I'm home, honey, whatever. But I might just go downstairs in my little man cave and put on ESPN just for a few minutes, because I gotta transition from work Andrew to now husband or daddy Andrew. But she can't take it personal. She has to understand who she's marrying and who I am. Because sometimes some women might take that as, oh, he just comes in, he's ignoring me, he just ignores me. I will greet you. I will make sure you know that I'm here. But I need to transition from work, dad, to now your husband, or So space is very important. But the woman has to understand the reason for space. It's not because I don't want to be near you. It's not because I don't love you. It's not because I don't want to be in your presence. But I just need to take off another hat, put on another hat, and now I'm all yours. So I need a good hour at least.
You go with your bad self, Andrew. I got one more question to ask you, young man, and then I'll go on to Dr. Phil. Okay, physical touch. How important is that to you? Physical touch.
Physical touch. Okay. That's another very important one. But as a man, sometimes physical touch is very important for me, but maybe not necessarily for her. So in order for her to be engaged with physical touch, you also, in my opinion, must engage in other ways. You can't have physical touch with a woman, but you're not engaging her emotionally or providing security. So I might want to constantly have physical touch, but if she's not getting something else from me, physical touch might be an issue. There might not be a connection, because no one wants to feel like, oh, he just comes home and he just wants to whatever. Like, so if physical touch is important for the man, you have to tap into what's important to her so that you can get the physical touch that you need. Because I plan on not going anywhere. So there's an abundance of time that I'm going to be spending with you. So how do I ensure that you are into physical touch with me? I got to listen. I have to probably hear a story that I don't want to hear, but actively engage with her, eye contact, like stuff like that. Because when you do not do this, however good your woman is, she will be an icebox if you are one dimensional with your needs. So physical touch is important, but it comes with balance to make sure that she understands that she's more than just physical touch. And once you do that, I guarantee you'll get physical touch whenever. So
Thank you, young man. Okay, you speak with experience. I can see that. Okay, now let's go over to the man of God himself, the real Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, what do men look for in a relationship or a marriage?
Okay, so Bishop, this question I think is a very loaded question in the sense that when it comes to relationships, depending on how young or old you are, you're looking for something different stage. If you're a teenager, I say between the ages of 13 and maybe 21, when your hormones are high and things are kind of like you're still kind of searching for your own identity. When it comes to sexuality, it could be anything, primarily physical. You're kind of gauging what you see on television, so your needs are there. I could say when I was younger, I didn't know what I want, so it was all over the place for me. As of right now, I would say everything that was said before is really important, especially support, right? And I believe that every man is looking for that woman that's, that thinks he's a superhero. Like, oh my God, you're so awesome. Men love compliments and things like that. I haven't met one man that wants to be with a woman that thinks he's nothing, right? That thinks he can do nothing. I have not met one man that says, hey, I would love a woman just push me down every day. That's like ice cream and cake for me, right? Nobody wants that. I don't believe anybody wants that. So, I believe that men thrive on encouragement. And also, I wanted to just like even talk about marriage. Men don't think about marriage until they meet somebody they might be interested in marrying. That's when the thoughts really start happening for us men. When we're younger, it is the furthest thing from our mind. We're thinking about what we're gonna do, the careers we might conquer or the things we might do with our life. But marriage isn't something that we sit down and map out. While on the other side, ladies have planned their marriage since they're 5 years old. They already know the dress they want to wear, the color scheme. By the time they're like teenagers, they know the color scheme for their wedding. So it's the dynamics are definitely different, and so I think that really plays a role in how we are in relationships. So yeah, it all depends on the stage I am in my life.
So, Doc, let me ask you a question. You are married to my daughter, okay,
Yes.
a beautiful young lady. What is it that really pulled you towards her? Now, remember that you're young, you're a handsome guy, and I'm sure that there were hundreds of eyes on you. And remember that every woman who has a head, she does not just have one eye, she has two eyes. So if it were 50 women, it was 100 eyes that was on you. What was it, young man, that captured your attention with my daughter, who you were married to?
Okay, Bishop, it was the way she walked. I love watching her walk. I love watching her walk now. She would tell you that. She already knows. So yeah, it was just if we wanted straightforward, just one day it was just like that. And at first for me it was very difficult because I was coming out of a difficult relationship. So, and I was working my mind and emotions out of that. It took a little pushing from a few friends, to point me in the right direction. But once I was, I'm like a bloodhound. Once you point me in the right direction, I'm good. And so, we connected. One of the things I love about how my wife and I dated, it was we dated like grown-ups. We went to Dunkin' Donuts, and we sat down at Dunkin' Donuts, and we had one of the most realist conversations I've had with anybody that I just really met. And I could tell she was a no nonsense person from our first sit down date. From then, we've always had that kind of an open conversation line. And I think that's what's really kept us, is we're always able to talk to each other and be honest as far as in some communicate. I can't say that the whole time we were like, oh yeah, totally honest. No, I don't think anybody is like that. But even now, we find time to really communicate how we feel about certain things, and I think.
But Doc, she did not tell me that you took her to Dunkin' Donuts. No, I got to talk to my daughter. I got to have a real talk with her. Let me ask Apostle Lucien Rojas, what was it, man of God, that attracted you, drew you to that beautiful lady that you are married to?
Well, to be quite honest with you, Bishop Scott, sometimes we want to give the spiritual answer and the deep answers and stuff like that.
Sure.
I really was attracted visually. Andrew said something. In as much as we want someone that is spiritual and well balanced, we want someone that we are attracted to. And being attracted to someone is not carnal; it's not unspiritual. I saw her; she had on a nice tight jeans, and I saw her. And I was physically attracted to her. When we started talking, I realized she's born again, because I didn't know her before I met her. We started talking. As a matter of fact, I was in Trinidad. I went to see my niece run a marathon, and that was the Sunday, and I was leaving Trinidad on the Monday. So I saw her on the Monday, and I started looking. I wasn't lusting, I was looking. And it's okay to look. Hey, how you gotta look to engage, you know what I mean? And we started talking, and I ended up knowing her pastor, and I said, wow, strange. And we start talking, and that evening we talked till my phone get hot, my cell phone, the battery almost burnt out. We talked all night. It was a spark. And then the next day, guess what? I'm leaving now to come back to New York. I said, so, in the beginning, there's fire. It sparks, you know what I mean? And so I was physically attracted to her. I liked the size. She was petite. And after that, we begin to realize she's a Christian and she loves God. And that's it. But one of the things mentioned earlier, Bishop Scott, is that when we look for a wife, we look for someone that is caring, of course, but we don't want a mother. And sometimes I find women, we get mixed up or confused between caring and mothering. I don't want someone to mother me. I want someone to care for me and love me. And another thing is also, I don't want the clingy. I, like Andrew said, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, but give me a little space. Give me a time to go with the fellas for fishing. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to call me 24/7. I get it that you care, but please, the 24/7 calling nonstop, that could be aggravating. Men need their space, and also we need affirmation. You know what I mean? So these are some of the things that we look for that could make a healthy marriage, and there must be trust, of course, and not where it's jealous. You can't talk to your cousin. You can't talk to, who's that? And that after a while, it get dicey. We want a nice, harmonious relationship where we are free with each other. So that's more or less it, Bishop.
Excellent. Okay, let me put this question to the panel. Okay, and it's the answer that I really want to know. What are the signs of a toxic relationship? Toxic relationship.
First starts with jealousy. If you have jealousy in either side, it's, you can't be out 10 minutes later than you were supposed to, and then that starts. So that mistrust will kill it.
Anyone else?
Well, Andrew talked about conversation, and like, this is my second marriage, and one of the things I really, my tolerance is very extremely low, and you all got to pray for me in that area. I don't like arguments. I like conversation. I like reasoning. The Bible said, "Come now, let us reason together," says the Lord. I like to reason, but I don't like the yelling and the back and forth and the disrespect. Men want to be respected. Women want to be loved. And your voice is louder than mine. And I'm trying to make a point. You wouldn't let me finish. That's not healthy. You know what I mean? You could disagree. We could agree to disagree, but let's respect each other and have a civil conversation. In the years past and gone, I could have wrangle and fight and argue, and my tolerance level for that is my appetite for that is so low. And I am a reasonable person. I want to talk. We want to have a healthy conversation. You could disagree. I could disagree. You could tell me what you don't like. I could tell you what I don't like. But the name calling, the yelling, the disrespect, that is not a good recipe.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Anyone else like to weigh in? What are the signs of a toxic relationship?
I think sometimes in the beginning, and sometimes both parties could have a level of toxicity. So sometimes you attract things that you're unaware are toxic, and then you feed off each other. So when a relationship starts too strong, where 1 week feels like it's 3 months, and 3 months feel like it's a year, you burn out. There has to be healthy boundaries. And I'm talking that sometimes even with Christians, we're so happy that we found this perfect, amazing man of God, and we decide that we're going to pray 24/7, and we're going to do this, and we burn it out so fast that before we even get to proposal, we have now exhausted it because we're too excited to go through the natural process of a healthy relationship that leads to marriage, which is learning each other, your goals, your wants. Do you want children? But because you found a man of God and I found a woman of God, we automatically go. And something that God could have created and been purposeful, we can ruin it because we are hasty in our way of dating. So it shouldn't be forever, but it should be a time period where, like you said earlier, you don't necessarily have to be on the phone 24/7, but a healthy, hey, what's going on? Have conversations, but not where it's draining you. Like you got to go to work and you can't function as this person to speak to you. Or there's certain things that sound so good in the beginning that she calls you all the time until you have a project to do or a deadline. So toxicity can be both partners being too excited about the prospect of marriage, and as a result, you can end up ruining the whole thing if you dive. Just take your time. Over time, characteristics will show, and if this is what God wants for you, it will reveal itself. But God can give you something and you ruin it. So you have to make sure that you operate with patience and wisdom as far as how you, and I'm talking from like mistakes. So I know now what not to do. But sometimes as a young Christian, you are too excited that, oh my God, this woman loves Jesus. For real? Like she's not fake. And he's, and then next thing you're clashing. A healthy prayer life outside of each other is important. Sometimes people have these stereotypes that we need to do all these things now, but the single woman belongs to God. She needs to have her time with God, and you need to have your time with God. And then in a relationship, you guys can do things together, but you're still, even in a marriage, going to need to have your alone time with God. Just because you do it together does not mean that you're going to have a healthy marriage. And if you don't, likewise, but there should be you and your partner time, and definitely you and God time. And don't be overbearing too early, because a great woman or a great man can be burnt out by just the flame is too hot too early.
Andrew, let me ask you a question, sir. How many times have you been married? Because you speak with so much conviction, so much wisdom. How many times?
When I was younger, I had this is very personal. I was 19 and I was rebellious. So I had a little young, early bad experience with my son's mother. And I was conflicted with the fact that I had a early pregnancy. So the way I was brought up, it was like, you got to get married. Like you're supposed to get married. I'm 19 years old. I'm just now understanding women. And to be honest, I never thought that I could even make a baby. So that having a child so early at 19 was frightening. The pressure of, what's the right thing? I have grandparents, my dad's in church, etc. So I didn't necessarily go through the right way of dealing with that situation. I was young, very hot-headed. And like Oscar talked about, I came into it like, this is my way or no way. At 19, 20, I didn't understand communication. I didn't understand affection. I didn't understand a lot of things, to be honest. Like that version of me, I don't think anybody would like me. Like I was but I did understand taking care of her. I did understand taking care of my responsibilities. That was never in question. But as I got older, I realized now, like I didn't even like hugging. I didn't even think that was necessary. I'm like, please, like, why are you hugging me? So I had an experience when I was younger, and I struggled with not repeating that mistake. And I struggled with trying to make sure that I just didn't do that again. But I now at 38, it's a lot more serious to me.
Yes.
So that's my experience.
Loud and clear. Is there anyone else that would like to weigh in?
Yes, Bishop.
Of course, please.
In terms of Andrew situation, and what I found out is that when we grow up in a Christian home, the pressure is, and hear me. You get a young lady pregnant, and the first thing they put on you, you have to marry her. And I am for marriage. It's honorable. It's ordained by God. But 19, and you're growing up in a Christian home, daddy's pastor, the whole circle, the embarrassment, the church, and the pressure. You getting married. Listen, you don't get married because of a green card. You don't get married because of a baby. You get married because you love the person.
Those are the things. Huh? Not to cut you, but those were the things that I was faced with. I was faced with a green card issue, and I was faced with early pregnancy. So not to cut you, but
I hear you.
You have me in a rebellious state at 19, right? So I've disconnected from safety. I've disconnected from mom, dad, grandpa, all that, right? It's 19.
Because of the pressure.
Right. And I have no idea what I'm doing. I think then I knew what I was doing. But in retrospect, I had no idea. And as a result, I saw certain things and I tried to implement them, but my foundation wasn't right. So when you start something on the wrong foundation, and now I'm American born, so I don't necessarily understand papers. I don't understand the pressure of, and I'm not throwing her under the bus, but I don't know what it's like for her to not be straight and all this stuff. And I like when you said earlier how a daughter imagines her wedding. I always imagined that when I had a child, it would be my wife. I didn't think there was anything outside of that. I wasn't prepared for that because the way I was taught was you leave home, you cling to your wife. So my whole mentality growing up was I'm gonna have a baby with my wife. So, but then when I was faced with the reality of life, I'm like, God, I don't really know if I should do this, but I don't want my son to grow up this way, or I don't want to look a certain way, and and my last name and all this stuff. So I'm 19 years old. I'm literally lost, and I'm trying to make it look good, and I'm trying to appease the wound with a Band-Aid, and I need surgery, and there wasn't very many people that I trusted to talk to. So I made a mess bigger. And then you add the fact that I'm emotionally immature. You have the fact that I wasn't financially stable. And I'm angry because I'm going through all these things and there's no one to talk to. And I don't want to embarrass anyone. So, a lot of times I used to call Jamaica my grandmother, and that was who I spoke to about things. But when you say the green card, that definitely hits a nerve because I didn't understand this. I just was, an American Jamaican kid that liked Jamaican women, but didn't understand the culture so much then like I do now. So,
The question,
what though? Go ahead, Oscar, and I'll go after you.
so the question was, if you would have married her, what kind of husband would you have been at 19, being rebellious, being angry? It just would have made a bad situation.
I did do it, but I did it for the wrong reasons. And it was a horrible situation. Like, I can't even blame her. Like, it's so easy to be like, oh, she was this, she was that, she was this, she was that. But at 19, and sometimes I don't even know how I did it, because I see 19-year-olds now and I'm like, oh my God, they don't have cars, they don't have apartments, they don't have anything. I don't know how they're, but for me, it was like, I needed to do something. I need to work. I have to take care of this woman. What am I going to do? Originally I was in school for computer science. And then I went and I said, I need to do a trade first before I did nursing. So I went to trade school. So immediately I knew I had to have a responsibility and I need to provide. Those are things that I always knew. I have to provide safe space. But the part for a healthy relationship, did not understand that. I did not understand that you can't talk to her a certain way. You can't be yelling, like, because I'm upset at myself and I don't know how to properly express my frustration or have someone to help me, because I'm in the situation and it's like, I love my son and I'm great, but like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm expected to just figure it out. And you're looking for me all the answers, and I don't want to embarrass anyone. And I feel like I made this big black eye on the church and my name, little stuff like that when I was younger. So it was it was a recipe for disaster. And I know so many Christians when I was younger that got married for those type of reasons. If it wasn't a green card, they got married right out of high school because they wanted to have legal sex. They didn't understand the responsibility of a wife properly. So I don't want to fornicate and I have a girlfriend in church. Let's just get married. And so out of college, they'll marry at 21, and by 27, they're divorced. They didn't understand. And it's like, because the expectation of high school, college, marriage, and everybody does that in that order. And sometimes there's a space where you need to learn yourself. You need to learn God. You need to understand who you are before you can even, or for me, leaving home early, I picked up so much things that I was not taught. And those things will not translate to a healthy husband. So now I have to unlearn these things to now become the man I was supposed to be originally, because I went off the path. And as I go off the path, I picked up a bristle, a thorn, and all these things. And now I'm trying to get into a relationship and be healthy, but I picked up these bad stuff. So stuff like that. I'm like sharing way too much stuff.
No, that's good.
Hey,
very good.
Hey, no, listen. Honestly, Andrew, you are so not alone, man. You're so not alone, because you have, and I'm going to talk about just from the black man. We try to avoid the separation, but there is, we are left to learn certain things on our own. It's not cultivated. It's not, it's not mentioned. And so when certain things happen, especially in the church, we are so unprepared to deal with it that it either becomes one, there has to be a hero and a villain. And a lot of times the guy becomes the villain and the woman becomes the victim. And then that's the scenario that is put out there. So if you don't marry her, it's like now you get branded as the one that uses women and things like that. So you're tied to either when you're that young, you're tied to either making this major lifelong decision that yes, I'm going. In fact, in yourself, you're not ready, but we would rather, because I was there. We would rather put on the facade that I remember when I first got married, I felt like I had to prove something. I mean, I was on a mission to prove that I was a man. That was my mission.
My, and this is like, okay, so like I teach my son certain things, right? Knowing who he is now, because at 19, I'm still, some people are ready, but I wasn't, right? It's a case by case basis. So at 19, I have the pressure of a woman in a situation that I don't understand. I don't understand papers. I don't know immigration. I don't know what it's like to can't be able to do things, a bank card, driver license, can't work, right? So I'm under that pressure. And then she knows who I am. That's another pressure. You're a pastor's son. You're this, you're that. So that kind of put pressure on me because like, well, you know the right thing. And you know I'm in this situation. So what are you going to do? And I'm just like, okay, God, I want to raise my son. I want to be a good person, but I am so lost. This is 19 years old. This is 20. This is 21. And I thank God that the one thing that was instilled into me that a lot of people is the responsibility of providing. That was I didn't run from that, and that helped to shape making sure my son had that stability. But if I were to speak to someone else in that situation at 19, like, and I know we had a topic that was be different, but this is why for me, like even the topic of abortion is different for me because it could have went a different way. I could have easily not had a son. I didn't. We both didn't choose to do that. I didn't know how to take care of a child when I was making like $7.25 an hour. Like that's how am I supposed to do this? I remember I didn't get my apartment until November. My son was born in December. So I'm scrambling for 8-9 months trying to find housing, I don't have no credit. I'm in school for computer science. But I thank God for his grace, honestly, because like fast forward, my son just graduated high school and high honor roll, going to college. Like it could have been different. So I tell my son all the time, we grew together. And I try to be more transparent with my shortcomings. So now that he's transitioned he's going to college now, there's another level I have to be transparent with. Now I have to tell him, how was it for me post high school? He knows what it's like when I was in high school. And post high school was the hardest part for me, understanding women. And it's like you said earlier, it's still confusing. I don't know everything, but what to avoid and not to be manipulated into certain things. And sometimes God tests you with the same thing again until you pass the test. And so marriage and what you look for. And the woman has to sometimes understand that when you're dating someone and they're not ready. And when you date someone that you know is not ready, you buy time now, but you're going to pay for it later. Sometimes
I love that.
You have to have a woman and say, you know what? I know if this is who you think God has called for you, but you know he's not ready, pray for him. Wait, or because you only end up creating a monster or something worse later on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I love that.
Dr. Phil, you wanted to say something, I think.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. I mean, even because someone is 21 doesn't make them. And when the boy is in the man's body, because there's certain responsibilities that he can handle. When you think $10 an hour is balling money, you ain't ready yet. Okay, you haven't paid the mortgage yet. Okay, but when you're young, when you're a teenager and you're making like $15 an hour, you're like, oh my goodness, I'm making $15 an hour. I'm gonna go buy this and this and this. You're definitely not ready as far as mentally financially ready to do anything pertaining to having a household. Because I can tell you right now, up front, $15 an hour, not take care of a family. You're going to need 2 jobs. You're going to need 2 jobs to do that, and it's going to be a whole lot of stress. And let's not even talk about inflation and all that. So these are not things that, as young men, we're told. We're not told this. We just think that it's as simple as I'm a responsible person, so therefore I can handle a marriage.
I think one thing that was not stressed enough is financial compatibility. And that's something that, like, I've learned now. So I meet you. You are gorgeous. You are beautiful.
It's okay. Go ahead. Keep talking.
You are gorgeous. You are beautiful. And if I don't have the ability to, maybe you're not as driven. Maybe you are going to be limited in what you want to do. Maybe you just want to be a homemaker. Maybe you don't. But I don't understand the pressure that finances can break your marriage quicker than infidelity if you don't have the ability to take care of your child. Like when you said, I had two jobs. I was working at Radio Shack, Bank of America, and I was in school. And this is at 20, 21 years old. And a man has to understand that well, for me and the way I was brought up, I mean, you're expected to provide. It's not an option. And I never wanted to be the type of person that had to depend on my wife in an unnecessary manner. Like, I'm not saying she can't help me, but my spirit would not be able to handle me just leeching or so when I teach my son, I teach him two things. Like, I don't have the answers, but I teach him, number one, you're going to be able to take care of yourself. It's not an option. You are going to be an effective counterpart because Black women are the number one educated group of women in this country. So my son will always be an effective counterpart for that. And number two, I'm going to teach you God. You're going to know who he is. What you do with that, that's on you. I didn't have maybe all the resources financially and stuff like that, but these are the very bare minimums. Know who you are, know who God is, and understand it is your job to protect, provide, and provide security. And these are things that I didn't necessarily do, but I'm telling you this. I didn't want to be an angel of light and make it seem so perfect because my missteps were when I'm going through something, man, why does it seem like everyone got this so great? Like I'm the only one that's going through this problem and no one can relate to me with, out of wedlock pregnancy or someone doesn't have a green card. Like I don't have anyone to relate to. I don't know who to speak to. So, but there were so many people that were probably going through this, but they've overcome, but they didn't share anything with me. There was no instruction. I'm not saying necessarily I would have done everything they said, but it might have been nice to have a trusted brother or sister or someone older, like, it's okay, you will make it, and not feel like, because I could have easily stayed where I was. But I thank God for my foundation, number one, that always came back to me and just, but
Okay.
learning.
Thank you much. We are speaking about men and marriage. Thank you, young man, for being so candid. There's a question that I must ask, honestly. And this number one question here, it's driving me crazy, but I've got to ask it. When should you leave a marriage or a relationship? When should you walk out? Is there a time that you should say, bye-bye, que sera, sera?
I'm still married, so I don't know. My wife does check for the expiration date on the marriage license. I caught her doing that. But I'm still on the first one.
Okay.
Right, so
now, let me ask you a question, Oscar. Would you ever walk out of a relationship? What would it take for you to walk out of the relationship that you're in now?
Probably loss of trust.
Okay.
If I can't trust the person, then you can't get past that.
Sure.
For me, it's trust. Everything else can be worked out. No marriage is in Spanish. We have a saying: every house is its own world. So every marriage is different, but the one thing that's the same is you have to be able to work out problems together, and you have to have that trust. If you don't have trust, if you can't work out your problems, it's time to call it a day.
And let me ask you a question, Oscar. If your wife was abusing you physically, emotionally, verbally, would you stay with her?
That's a tough question because you're seeing that everywhere. The thing that just happened at the Oscars, and they go back to obviously his wife, has something on him, and that whole, here's an abused man syndrome. So when you're in an abusive relationship, a lot of times it's like it's the devil rather than the one you don't. So you stay in that relationship. There's there are things that keep people in bad relationships, but, luckily I haven't had that problem. But there are people that stay in awful relationships and like, why don't you leave? I don't know. And they just stay. But there's got to be there. I don't know if there's a one defining thing that says that's it. We're done. I mean, that was, younging and dating was different. It's like, it's not working out. We gotta break up. But in marriage now, it's a contract. You've signed a contract. Now, do you honor that contract? And at what point do you break that contract? What is that? The thing that says this is no longer a valid contract?
It varies from people to people, naturally, person to person, and so on. Some men, if you look at another woman, okay, that's grounds for breaking the contract and so forth. And yet there's some, it takes hell and high water to cause them to say bye-bye. Okay, anyone else like to weigh in?
Yes, I am 100% against an abusive relationship. Even like with Andrew, I was listening to him and he was so transparent, and he thought it was him alone. But I understand as I grow in life that, we all have issues and we all go through things. It's a 4-letter word. It's called life. Elijah thought he was the only one that did not bow his knees to Baal, and he had a pity party, and the Lord said, "Come on, get up. I got 7,000 who's been through the same thing that you've been through." And how many young people I see in Andrew and his experience, and you should go to school and get a platform and share your testimony. It's very powerful. And the mistakes that you make sure that you didn't hand it on to your son. But he has to go through his process. He's gonna learn. He's gonna stumble. He's gonna make mistakes. It's life. So what is their perfect relationship? I'm looking for the perfect one, the perfect match. Of course, I was telling somebody it's hard to get the 100% package because it's a process. You're gonna learn. You're gonna grow. You're gonna go through. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna fall. You're gonna get up. You're gonna apologize. You're gonna say I'm sorry. You're gonna forgive. It's all a journey. Yeah. So to walk into this and say, I got the one, 100%. She might have the money and she might not have the looks. She might have the looks. She might not have the hygiene. She might have the looks and the money, and she has a temper. So I'm saying you can't keep going from Jane to Mary because you're looking for the right one. So sometimes what you have to do is to make it work. It's a process. It's giving and it's taking. Marriage is a process. Two people coming together, different culture, different ethnicity, different grew up in different home, different culture, different environment, different race, and coming together. It's such a challenge, So it's a process and it's the package. So looking for the perfect one, I don't think, because people still work in the marriage even after 10 years. You're still working. 15 years and your wife and you still getting butting heads. You love each other. You're not going anywhere. But gee, we have our challenges, and sometimes people make it look like creams and peaches.
I think, not to cut you, but just to that point right there. Okay, so without this platform, right, without this audience, right, so you go to church, you hear the word of God, you're preached to, you go to Bible study, you go to men's, right, and you go home. If I didn't hear what Apostle said just now, where 10 years, you could still be bucking heads with the same woman. 15 years, you could have issues. Now I leave with this concept of, I found my rib, my Eve, right? But I don't understand my Eve has a mouth that's an attitude, and I got to learn how to diffuse situations, or I got to learn how to compromise, because no one's telling me this. So when I see Apostle on Sunday with his perfect wife, I'm trying to emulate this thing because, oh my God, she seems so submissive. But when I go home, my woman doesn't want to make me eggs and bacon and nothing, or she's upset about something. I don't know how to handle this, because what I see every Sunday or every Wednesday and when I go home is completely different, because I don't have another man or another person that is above me, a mentor, someone older, that's saying, you know what, my marriage isn't always nice. Sometimes my wife doesn't speak to me for a day or a couple of hours or whatever. But you know what I do?
That's true.
No, seriously. So
how do you do that?
I'm saying, so when the younger ones go through stuff, and now we're bucking heads with each other as younger Christians or younger couples, and there's nobody being authentic with how, you know what, I started off bad too, or I didn't necessarily do that too. And it took me 20 years or 15 years or 5 years or 3 months. I don't know what it was. And so you start feeling like something's wrong with you. And now you keep searching.
Right.
You keep trying to find the next whatever.
I want to throw something into what Andrew just said, because the one thing, and I love this because I hope everybody hears this part. The one thing we don't teach in church is conflict resolution. We don't know, we try to ignore conflict. We brand conflict as a bad thing. We disagree, so we're enemies, right? People in church draw red lines. There's so many red lines in church, right? Because we cross each other and all of a sudden we draw a red line. Oh, that person has a demon because we disagreed on this, and she believes this, and I believe this. Therefore, this means war, right? We don't know how to resolve conflict. We don't know how to have conversation around conflict, and talking about holding grudges and all the unhealthy things that need to keep a good relationship going. Conflict resolution, having a conversation without yelling, actually practicing listening to the other person without having a comeback statement, hearing what the other person has to say. We don't teach these things. So when it comes to having conflict in marriage, I thought personally, as a Christian, when I was growing up, I thought married people in church don't have arguments. Because I never saw my mom or dad have an argument. So I'm growing up thinking,
you're never going to have an argument.
I'm never going to have an argument. Until I started having arguments. I'm going, something is wrong. This should not be this should not be happening in this relationship. So my relationship must be imperfect because we're having arguments. But unless you have a conflict and you know how to resolve that, you're just going to think that every time you have a disagreement with your wife, it's over, it's done because we had an argument. No, your argument is meant to help you come to a conclusion, help you communicate. It helps to indicate that something is wrong, right? If your wife is upset and you're upset, something is wrong. Let's communicate. Let's find out what the issue is. If the other person's able to do that.
That's exactly what the problem is with most arguments is people are talking at each other, not to each other. So people talk and they're not listening to learn, they're listening to react.
Yes.
Like as soon as they finish talking, let me say, but you didn't hear anything that person said. So that conflict goes on as long as they're talking past each other. So there needs to be, again, communication, as Andrew said, communication is very important. You have to talk to each other, understand each other. Let me see if I have this correct. You said A, B, and C. Yes, I said that. Okay, now I understand what it is. If I say, let me understand, you said A, B, and C, and they say, no, I said A, D, and C. Like, oh, okay, I didn't understand. So not talk past each other, talk to each other, and that's conflict resolution. And the other thing somebody said is, the louder you get, the further away your hearts are. So if you're whispering, your hearts are close together. If you're arguing and screaming, your hearts are far apart and you never get it together.
Whenever you have men talking, it means that something is happening, something good, something positive, because most of the time men don't like to talk. But tonight I got you men talking, and that's good. Something definitely is happening. However, I don't think we'll get to question number 2. But Phil, let me ask this question, please. And this is important. Men, listen very carefully. How can you tell when a man is unhappy in a relationship? How can you tell when a man is unhappy in a relationship? Not that you men are ever unhappy now, but how can you tell when a man is unhappy in a relationship.
When your wife tells you you're unhappy. Just
Well, I don't know if it's one thing.
It's not.
That you can say this one reason why he is unhappy, or this is one sign. There can be many, and sometimes you take up little clues. If someone, for example, is always going on by themselves, it means, and sometimes it happens. Sometimes I travel by myself, not because but more or less they always by themselves. It means they're not enjoying the company of each other, and sometimes he just want to get away, so he rather go solo. That can be a little flag. I'm not saying it's this is the main reason. These are some of the flags, you know. Um, uh, but we have a way of putting on a facade in the front. I hear people in church say, "Apostle, oh my God, I want a marriage like you and Pastor Cathy," and I'm like, okay, are you sure? Because everything looks like you say Sunday morning, everything looks nice. They don't know if we had an argument in the car coming to church. Look, things happen in marriages, man. And I'm telling you, I'm not saying to tell everybody your weakness or your mistakes, but sometimes we can put on such a front that it looks so perfect. Have you ever seen somebody separate and you say, I can't believe it for my life? They look so perfect together. Yeah, we perfect when we sit in the front pew. But you don't know what's going on internally. You don't know the undercurrent, because don't let nobody fool you. Marriage have challenges. Some are better than others. Some are really healthy, but some people struggle in their marriage, and you can tell because it looks so perfect on the outside. They look like lovebirds, and they wasn't talking all the way in church. And when they come in church, they're smiling, hugging, shaking hands, and when they go back, they put on that thing again, and it's war. And so we know how to dress it up and how to put on a facade in the front, and so sometimes we are called to be transparent, and you would be surprised to know what bishops go through. Some of them want to leave, but they can't. The repetition, they got too much to lose. They would walk out Monday morning, but they can't. Bishop, I'm talking about, apostles, pastors, they're not happy in their marriage. They're preaching a powerful message, they're blessing people, but there's turmoil in the marriage. Oh yeah, it happens.
But apostle, as leaders, sometimes you can't show everything that's going on with you, because it's just known that people judge leaders way more heavily than anybody else. If you sneeze wrong, 95% of the congregation has an opinion about how you sneeze and why you sneeze, and speculation around your sneeze.
I think sometimes, Dr. Phil, too much is put, and I know where much is given, much is required. But sometimes people are trained that way, that somehow apostle, bishop, they're on a pinnacle, they're on an island by themselves. I'm a father, I'm an uncle, I'm a husband, I'm a grandfather, I'm a pastor, I was a sanitation worker. I have so many hats, and you expect me to not make a mistake. You expect me to always be on my game. I have to be ready every Sunday morning. Everybody could take time off. Everybody feeling it today. I have to come and perform, minister every Sunday. I am human too. Sometimes I go through things. Sometimes some Sundays, ask my wife, I'm struggling Sunday morning and I ain't got a message yet. And I'm tempted to call somebody to preach for me. And guess what? That was the most powerful service I preached on that Sunday. God just give me a word. And I'm saying it's not like that every Sunday, but something came right there in my, I said, Lord, I need you today. I can't repeat this message. I just need something fresh. And God just downloads something in my spirit. I'm not saying like that every Sunday mornings will happen like that. But hey, that was the most powerful time. So we are human. Like passion. Elijah, bipolar. Noah had too much to drink. Moses killed a man. David committed adultery. The list goes on, but God used them. God even used Rahab the harlot, the spies. And I'm not saying to live like a drunken sailor and expect God to use you. But what I'm saying is you might be surprised to know the flaws that people have. We bleeding, but we leading. We imperfect, we have a thorn, but we still preaching. But God used broken things.
Yes. Amen.
So the question is, how can you tell when a man is unhappy? Now, remember, we all men that's on the platform tonight. How can you really tell when a man is unhappy in a relationship?
The way he greets you. The way a man greets you, you can tell if he's happy with his partner or not. So you live together, a guy's happy, comes home, he hugs his wife, he's blah, blah, or he walks right by her. Immediately there's something, and it could go for her too, right? I haven't seen you all day, and I'm not elated to see you. I don't. I know the honeymoon doesn't last all the times, but how does he greet you? Does he greet you with disdain? Is he irritated? If he's irritated, why is he irritated? Is there something that you did or caused where they're not communication that morning? But usually it's on the guy's face because we really don't fake well, especially with our partner. So if I was a woman, I would body language. Is he dry? Is he not responsive? We don't talk enough as it is. But if he's barely talking, then that's usually a cry for that something's going on. And you might want to do a little investigating on the good side of the woman's stuff. Don't be a detective for the wrong things. Detect what's going on with him. Is he having a bad day at work? Is he financially stressed because he's looking for your car payment, the mortgage, the whatever, and he's feeling overwhelmed? And all he needs you to say is, baby, I got it. So I would say his body language, how he greets you, how he speaks to you, can determine if he's happy or not. Because he can be broke and miserable and still happy to see you. So it's how he greets you to me.
Sounds good. Anyone else like to weigh in on that?
Yeah,
How can you tell?
I second Andrew. The quieter a man gets, is the more you know that there's something going on, you know.
But by nature, a woman speaks more words per day than a man.
No, but no, Apostle, what we're saying is, if he starts speaking less words, you know, if he used to say,
Dr. Phil, when God made man, right? Man was sleeping when he made the woman.
Right.
So by nature, women are more talkative. I think women speak 22,000 words a day and men speak about 5. I mean, they just speak more.
Apostle,
by the time we get home, we're done speaking.
Apostle, I'm just saying, but if he's not even saying, if he's not saying 2 words to you, there's something wrong. I mean, like for instance, if a guy thinks that every time he says something to his wife, it's going to turn into an argument,
he's not going to say anything.
Man, shut down. Man, shut down.
He will go from talking to you to just going.
Man, shut down. And women say, I'm talking to you, answer me. They're getting more irritated. You ain't saying nothing because you don't want to start an argument.
Right.
We don't like arguments. No. But so we get quiet.
There's funny thing because I saw a psychologist who's a marriage counselor. He says that men and women's brains are completely different. That men's brains basically have little boxes. And each box is separate. So when we want to do something, we open that box, we do whatever's in that box, we put it away and we close it. The boxes don't touch. Women's brains are like all connected. So an emotion is a color, is a smell, is an everything. So we have different ways to think. So if we try to be logical with women and they try to be emotional with us, we don't have that conversation. We have to understand the way each person thinks and each person understands things to really be able to communicate. See, this is, and that theory is, I'll explain it to you. How many times has your wife said, what are you thinking? And you say, nothing. We're really thinking, we're in that nothing box that women don't understand. This is why we can fish, because we have a nothing box in our head, and women, it's everything is connected. Everything is that's where we get into the big problem.
But Oscar, you know, because women may seem more emotional, doesn't make them less logical.
Oh no.
And vice versa. It makes
it worse because they're emotional and logical.
I believe men's emotions run deep. In fact, it's like if we say for most men, if we say I love you, we don't need to say anything else because everything seems to be wrapped up in that one statement that we made. We've just added a whole, constitution to that I love you statement. So when I believe that words carry deeper meaning for men. So when we say something, like if we say, just leave me alone right now, I just need some time. No. Now just give me 5, just give me a couple. And you keep, that's like, to most men, that's like a line of disrespect. Like, all I need is 15 minutes to get my mind straight. Right? And so it's those things that are so important that to men, to be able to just gather their thoughts and, ignore, in fact, in some cases, ignore how they feel because they don't like how they feel or how they're going to respond to it.
But Dr. Phil, sometimes women can see things that you don't see.
True.
Sometimes she picks up on things. You tell her what Susie, she finds Susie's interested in you. Women read women.
That's right.
This conversation is getting deeper than I anticipated. Now, the question is, how can you tell when a man is unhappy in a relationship? Well, personally, I find that he'll give any excuse not to come home. He'll give any excuse. He just does not want to face this when he comes home. Not happy. Not just that. Oftentimes, he will tell single guys, don't get married. Don't get married. Don't get married. So look out for all those men that are saying to their younger peers, don't get married. Don't get married. Look out for those men who, whenever it's time to leave work to come on home, they just find some excuse not to come home. How say you? Do you agree with what I'm saying?
Okay, so I think that to tie it into something Andrew said, like sometimes guys use that space kind of like for that personal space before they go home. And I don't think that's what you're talking about. I think you're talking about the guy that looked for every reason to say, well, I have something to do down at my sister's house, so I'm going to be down there and working.
Yes.
Yeah. So but sometimes it's like especially like if you have to sit down. When I used to work at Bloomingdale's, I used to sit down at a restaurant or sit down somewhere, and I'll just take about a good half an hour to read a book, just detach myself from everything that happened in that day. And then when I'm home, I'm fully home, like 100% present, and that was very important for me to have that time, but I think the time you're talking about is something different.
Totally different.
What he's talking about is an unhealthy one. What he's talking about, you're talking about a healthy type of space. So I can speak to an unhealthy type of space because I did what he said. Like I would find something to do. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go to the Avenue and buy a beef patty for no reason and take an hour and a half to eat the beef patty. And I get off work at 3 o'clock, but I'm not getting home till 5 because
6 o'clock.
Exactly. I really don't want to get home, so I'm gonna go to Avenue. I'm gonna check my other friend on the block, and I'm gonna do all this rigmarole for 2 hours or so because I don't want to go home. What you're speaking about is being home and getting a healthy space. That's okay, where your presence and you're letting your wife or know that, hey, I'm just gonna be in the basement, maybe turn on some gospel music or play jazz, whatever you're doing, just to decompress, to be there for her. Versus, I really don't want to go home. And I'm gonna try to find as much legal space where she's not gonna kick me out to do what I want and then go home.
Well, listen, we're almost there, but listen, someone comes to you and tell you that they are getting married. A young man comes to you and tell you that he's thinking about getting married. What advice? I'm going to give you 30 seconds each to answer this. What advice would you tell him? I'm getting married, planning on getting married. What advice would you give to him? Apostle.
Well, I would certainly tell him in 30 seconds, seek counseling. I think counseling is underrated. there's safety in the multitude of counsel.
Yes, sir. That's the
Even though I'm a pastor, I still believe, I don't care if he's a pastor. If you're going to get married, trust me, you might say, I know all the scriptures. You need counseling. Counseling is pivotal.
Oscar?
Well, to me, it's easy. For 36 marriage, I've always had the last word, always. And the last word is usually, yes, dear. So you can get those two last words in,
Yes, dear.
it'll work forever. You see where I was going with that? You guys are like, yes, he said it. No.
Okay, Andrew?
I would say get advice from a marriage that you want to emulate. Don't get advice from someone who is like an older, seasoned single person. No offense. Not that you can't necessarily take the negatives to be productive, but say, for example, I am 65 years old and I've never been in a healthy relationship. That might not be the person you want to be advising you on how to deal with your wife. Try to seek out counsel for someone that you know personally, not just on a Sunday morning their marriage looks good. I want to emulate a healthy marriage. So, like in my own perspective, I have my grandparents on my mother's side. Their marriage to me is one that I would love. My grandfather, before he died, it was, yes, Miss Dobbs, was Mommy Dobbs. They just showed so much love. It wasn't strict. It was so free flowing. My grandmother was always attentive to my grandfather and vice versa. So try to get advice from people who are actually in a healthy marriage, because it's easy for a single woman of God or a single man of God to tell you, don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. But if you peel back their lifestyle, they might have the Holy Spirit or some good advice. But me personally, I'd rather take advice from any one of you guys who are in a healthy, or what I perceive to be a healthy relationship. And then you tell me, because you do have a wife and you do understand her mood maybe, or you do, you know what I'm saying? So I would advise a single person to not get advice from, or a newly ready to be couple, not to get advice from your single friends, and definitely don't get advice from older people who might not necessarily have been in a healthy marriage. That might not be good for you, because when it goes rough, they might give advice that would destroy your relationship. So.
Sounds good, sir. Okay, let's hear from Dr. Phil.
Okay, so one thing I'm going to clarify with Andrew, I never understand my wife's mood.
Okay? Oh, no.
Never understand it. It's not
they
something
change the rules
that you understand. It's just something that you go, it's there, okay. You empathize.
Process, the journey.
Yeah, it's a process. So you know, it's just like, because men and women, we process things differently. So it's like, I know my wife lets me know when she needs time, right? Like sometimes it's avoidable and sometimes it's unavoidable. And so you have to kind of like make that space, make that time. But what I'm going to say, what I would say is, avoid false expectation. False expectation breeds disappointment. Okay, so you going in expecting a woman to do this, do that, and do this, and but you have no expectation of yourself, right? And you don't put any pressure on yourself to produce anything, but you expect the woman to come in your life and, cook, clean, dishes, work a 9-to-5, take care of kids, and you just kind of like go to work and come home, watch TV, and take out the trash. Okay, it doesn't work that way. Everybody needs to be fed emotionally, spiritually, physically, and it needs to be fair all the way across the board. So that's one of the things I would say. This don't set yourself up for false expectations, because most of the time you're just going to get disappointed, and then you're going to want to get divorced and find a woman that can cook, clean, and do everything you want to do.
Don't set yourself up for false expectation. Well, tonight we were dealing with men and marriage. Men and marriage. And I thank God that we don't have no ladies on tonight. So it's all about us men. Now we have approximately 2 minutes left with 4 men on the panel. That gives you approximately 30 seconds to say, what is it that we got out of this conversation? Apostle, what can we take away?
Well, I learned so much tonight, and even from Andrew being the younger man and the single man on the panel, that I even learned from him. So I think conversation we could really I draw from each other. Iron sharpened iron, so does a man sharpen the countenance of his friend. So I really enjoyed the dialogue, the conversation with Andrew tonight. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, Oscar.
Yeah, I've learned a lot again from Andrew, that seeing, coming from where I am now and seeing what it is to be young and in that situation. And again, who do you look to help you solve that situation? That mentoring, that being around people that you trust that can help you is super important, especially for the younger people now.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, let's hear from the man himself, Andrew.
Muted.
You're muted.
Unmute.
I'm sorry. I appreciate Bishop Scott. I love elders. That's always I'm always drawn to elders. And when an elder can be transparent, you don't understand. You save years for someone like me. When an elder can sit there and tell you something that you do not have to go through. Yes, you can have an experience. I really, at this point, I don't want to experience everything anymore. I would love some authentic conversation that leads to a productive solution. Because what I'm trying to do personally, I don't want to just listen anymore. I want to be able to actively do something, because it's not just hearing, but now how do I apply what Apostle said about marriage and it not being perfect? And you might get a woman that has all the finances but might have an attitude, or might look good but don't have this. And understand that is a process. Or Apostle talking about how you're supposed to be in a relationship and providing. Like, there's so much things that you guys have inside you that you don't understand we need. And when we get this, I can give it to my son and he can. So the mentor, the mentee, and the one below. So I appreciate when authentic conversation can be had, so that now it's thought provoking. When I get off this air, it challenges me to be more authentic too. I don't want to just hear this thing and now I don't apply it, because that is counterproductive. Now I hear what you guys said. I'm going to meditate on it and try to apply it to what is going on with me.
Beautiful. Thank you much. Dr. Phil.
Be the best person you could be. Examine yourself, know yourself, be the best person you can be, so that you can be the best person for your spouse in the future.
Beautiful, sir. Thank you. Well, tonight we certainly want to thank the panel. Thank God for Oscar that came on tonight. Thank God for the Apostle. Thank God for Andrew that was so candid. God bless you, Andrew. And of course, we want to thank God for the visionary, the Bishop's Corner, the real Dr. Phil. This is Bishop Scott saying it was a pleasure having you on the Bishop's Corner.